these different allegations that are coming out about me being a failed businessman, these different programs where they're putting questions and not allowing me to answer, the whole thing is choreographed. It is not just by chance that this is happening. But I'll tell you this, there is nothing in my cupboard that I'm ashamed of. There is nothing that I cannot stand over. And they can do all the dirt they want because they've tried it before and they've tried their intimidation as well and their murder. That hasn't worked either. So I would just ask people to sit down and think, why is this type of stuff coming out now? Is there a reason for it? Well, I think I've already answered that. I would ask you to take a look at the King's Mill situation. King's Mills would not be looked at the minute the way it is being looked at if it was not for fair. And upwards of 100 other murders that we have linked into that would not have been looked at if it was not for fair. The Breen Buchanan inquiry would not have happened if it had not been for fair. The Eames Bradley would have went through, whereby basically blood money would have been paid to the people who butchered the innocent victims if it had not been for fair. Libya, which the Prime Minister has confirmed the first part of will and is in place and will take place, has been confirmed, wouldn't have happened if it hadn't been for fair. Now there's another stage of Libya that has to be negotiated, which is another large amount of money. But I can tell you this, it won't happen either unless fair is involved in it, because there is no way we are going to sit back and allow the money to go to the people who actually received the weapons and the explosives that terrorised this country for 35 odd years. People are talking about cross-community projects. Yes, there's people from the Celtic community who will benefit out of Libya, and quite rightly so, innocent victims. But there will be no perpetrators to the tunes of millions benefiting out of anything that has been done by fair. So I would ask you, when you look at these issues of the HET, where that started, where the ideas come from, who was behind it, you will find that fair was the driving force behind it. Now there is people who have changed their approach in politics. They want to forget about the past. They want to wipe out our past. Now that would be all well and good if the IRA were prepared to do the same. But you heard Francie Malloy. If you didn't hear him, you would have seen it in the paper. Francie Malloy says that the Republican in 1916 or in 1956 or the Republican in 1981 or indeed the Republican of today is no different. Their aims and objectives are still the same. But sometimes you have to change strategies. You have to move with the times. And your strategy may change from time to time. That's exactly what's happening. They are the same. They still hate anything that is British. They hate anything that is Protestant. And they will get people like Mr. Latimer to stand on the platform and praise them, while at the same time, whenever they decide that it's time to murder people, they will go back to murdering them. And our people are continually and have been continually sucked in. We have a chance of peace here, but it is only if these people are held accountable, not if we allow them to dictate the past, because our future is our past. And if we don't write what took place in the past, every man that put a uniform on, every man and woman that put a uniform on, who went out to defend this country, and every man, woman and child who was murdered by the IRA, they will justify it that there were casualties of a legitimate war, when in fact they were nothing but a bunch of terrorists out murdering innocent civilians. Now, if you want to sit back and let the IRA write that history, you can do it, but our conscience will not allow us to do it. We have at long last received a report from the funders and from their legal representatives. First off, one of the things, and I don't think I'm going too far by saying this, we were asked to sign a document to say that we would not show it to a third party and that we would not take it to the media. Now, why would anybody ask for us not to take it to the media or to show it to any third parties? I signed no document to say that I would take it to no third party or to anybody else, because people will see, because you will get our answer very shortly. It would be okay if I had died. The report would have been pretty good, but the problem is I'm not dead, unfortunately for some who thought I would die. And that was some of the language used, not in this report or not by the legal people, but it was used by certain individuals that Frazer would be dead shortly, so it'll make no difference anyway. It wasn't Sinn Féin that said it either. Unfortunately, it was some of our own politicians that said it'll not matter because Frazer will be dead shortly. Well, thank God it was his decision, not theirs. It is simply an attempt to try and blacken my name. But how can any cupboard or look in any dark corner that they want when it comes to me? Because anybody that knows me knows that I cannot be bought for any amount of money. I will not betray, first off, my loved ones who were butchered and the people from the community who were butchered. I will not betray them or betray my country or betray what I believe to be right and true. I believe we have a right to justice, and no amount of money can ever compensate people for what they've come through. People talk about the amount of money that was given to FAIR. Well, I would sit down and break it down into what actually was given to FAIR. And just to give you an example, consultants receiving £10,000 for one particular contract. Advertising in newspapers, £14,000. That's where the money went to. Mostly to things like that, and also to pay the workers' wages. But the workers over there were actually helping victims directly by assisting them with a number of issues. So the money did not come to the organisation and we had this large lump of money. It doesn't work like that. Large amounts of money were wasted in these projects on things like consultants who were getting wages like £500 a day. We complained and complained. There was another part of it was to do with training. Training at £49,000. Yes, there is some individuals who do want to benefit from that, but not to the tune of £49,000. And then whenever you take on top of that, a consultant had to be brought in maybe at so many £1,000 for him to do it. And then you had to take on top of that, you had to advertise it in the papers at so many £1,000. You know, people need to know what they're talking about whenever they're talking about these funding allegations. The other thing, if somebody's seen a programme maybe on TV, I can't say because we're taking legal action, but it was a hatchet job. It just wasn't happened that way by chance. It was done on purpose. I said I'd do an interview if I was allowed to give the answers to the questions that I'd be asked. Didn't happen. The other thing, you read things in the paper about me being a failed businessman over 12 years ago. But the bit they forgot to mention was that I became a Christian at that time. I owned a nightclub and I was selling it. And we had a number of people interested. But it was taken out of our control. They killed the two young fellas in Tandragee, and our nightclub was named as them being there that night. We went from having 200 to 300 people, and anybody who's in the premises can tell you that 200 to 300 people to having 3 people in over the weekend. You know, I have nothing to be ashamed of. That's old news. You know, and go to the families and ask the families, did I do anything for them after it? I done a lot more than some of the people who are slobbering about Frazer being a failed businessman. I spent 7 years paying money when I could have walked away from it.